Hi guys, hello, Рейнби. Привет, ребят, с вами снова Рейнби. И сегодня мы наконец-то поиграем в многими долгожданную игру на данном канале Monstrous Lovers. Тема к игре «Возлюбленные монстры». Сюжет заключается в том, что наш главный герой приезжает в город, который в большинстве своем заселен монстрами. И это очередная игра, визуальная новелла с элементами симулятора свиданий, развитием отношений, симдейтинг. Окей. Как это там переводится? И в итоге мы можем остаться с 4 персонажами. С роботом, с вампиром, оборотнем, либо человеком-невидимкой. И этот человек-невидимка, он просто шикарен, по крайней мере, по рисовке. Будет интересно на это все посмотреть. Ей, так что давайте заценим это демо, пока оно бесплатное. И данной игре еще, кстати, недавно дали зеленый свет на Стиме, так что в будущем она, наверное, будет платная в полной версии. Но раз дали зеленый свет на Стиме, значит, она действительно классная. Так что давайте заценим ее. Yeah, come on, something. Вау. Man-Eater Games. Уже много чего говорит. Так, preferences. Full screen. Yeah, thank you. А музыки у нас вообще не будет, или как? Return. Я понимаю, что это демо, но музычка бы не помешала, наверное, немножечко. Наш главный герой. Далее идет вампирчик, человек-невидимка, робот и оборотень. На человеке-невидимке еще такие интересные знаки. И, как Лилия упомянула уже, почему мне наверняка он понравился. Красные круглые очки. Come on! И волосы мне его чем-то немного напоминают волосы Пенелопы, Пенни с игры Coming Out on Top, если кто-то еще помнит, если кто-то был в это время на данном канале, когда у меня выходил этот Let's Play, который я потом удалила, потому что он слишком странный. Эта игра быстро переросла в какие-то слишком такие темы. Я как-нибудь сделала отдельное видео про Coming Out on Top, и, не знаю, может быть, если вам будет интересно. А попущу все, что там происходит сейчас. Уху! Start game.
Are you sure you want to do this? Once I sign the notice, there's no going back,
Says our boss.
You have a brilliant career ahead of you. Well, it would be a shame to let it go to waste. I'm going to be honest. St. George is a dead end. There's a good reason no one wants to work there.
Кристофер. Мы Кристофер. Oh, that's adorable. Учитывая, что я часто пользуюсь этим ником, вариация данного имени. Yes, I'm sure. I've been thinking about this for a long time. I didn't join the Department of Integration to be stuck with a desk job. And if I stay here, a desk job is all I'm ever going to have.
If there's a problem, I could assign you to the field.
Sir, please, I've made up my mind.
Fine, if you insist, but don't say I didn't warn you.
Any music? Oh, thank you. That's neat. When my request to be transferred to St. George was approved, I couldn't contain my excitement. St. George is a relatively small town near the coast, famous for having a higher population of monsters than of humans. It's not the only one of such places to exist, but it's the only one big enough to have a DOI office of its own. All in all, a natural choice for someone in my line of work. Or so I thought. To be frank, I'm beginning to have second thoughts right now. Convincing my boss, as hard as it was, turned out to be the least of my problems. When word about my transferal began to spread, even the people who had supported me from the beginning wouldn't stop urging me to reconsider. No one had thought that I would actually go through with it, but seeing a signed paper made them realize I was being serious. Then, to make things worse, I simply couldn't find a place to stay at all. The few hotels in town fill up months in advance, and even as a government employee, it was impossible to find someone willing to rent to a human on short notice. In the end, I was lucky enough to have someone from the sign judge office offer to let me stay there in the meantime, but what could be taking them so long? I glanced at my phone. They are almost an hour late. I wouldn't worry too much. Cute guys like you don't get stood up. Startled by the voice, I clutched my phone to my chest as if my life depended on it. Then I turn around. I see what appears to be a vampire leaning against the back of the bench. He's grinning like he just hadn't scared the hell out of me. Or worse yet, like he found it amusing. Мне напоминает Дэна, да? С похождение призраками. Ну, черный, весь в черном, загадочный. Так что мы немножко, наверное, голос изменим. After a few seconds pass and he doesn't have any sudden movements, I realize that I'm not about to get mocked, and I allow myself to relax a little. Before I can actually say anything, he walks around the bench and sits down next to me. Right next to me. In fact, he's so close that our knees touch for a moment before I move my leg away. So, love, are you new in town? Я куда-то съехала. Did I hear that right? No, it must have been my imagination. Excuse me? I've got a great memory when it comes to pretty faces, and I'm sure I've never seen yours around. Oh god, I did. He's hitting on me. Not sure about what else to do, I look down at my phone and pretend to be busy, hoping that he'll get the hint and leave. Are you waiting for someone too? Maybe we could wait together. Instead of getting discouraged, he leans forward, obviously trying to catch a glimpse of my screen. Now, he's invading my personal space even more. I pick up my things and get up. He stands up right after me, practically jumping out of the seat and takes a step forward to block my way. Wait! Don't go! Он что, надеялся, что мы станем его этим донором, не? Слишком много манги о вампирах в последнее время. What? I'm sorry, we don't get many humans around here, and I got a little carried away. You don't say. Let's start over, right? I'm Vincent. Шипи тоже говорил, Vincent, come on, Vincent, Rowling. Ah, my favorite. Серийный убийца, любимчик. Еще кто-то был из Винсента, по-моему. Неважно. He offers me his right hand. He's beginning to make me uncomfortable, but by now it's become obvious that ignoring him won't make him go away. I shake his hand and introduce myself, tell him to leave me alone. Ну, как бы нам не сказали, кого именно они пришли, так что есть шанс, что мы останемся с... Он поможет нам жильем. Я не знаю. I don't freaking know. Tell him to leave me alone. Зачем? Нам надо посмотреть на все варианты, так что shake his hand and introduce yourself. Christopher. Christopher Wells? He looks very pleased with himself all of a sudden. All of a sudden. Неважно. I try to place his face. I would definitely remember someone with this kind of attitude, especially a monster. Unless he's... No, no way. Что я говорила? Do we know each other? Not really. I work at the Department of Integration. So, you're him, right? Oh god, he is. I nod hesitantly. This is great. Well, I was told that a human would be coming over from the capital. I imagine some stuffy old guy. You're so much better. As he continues speaking, I can almost feel the blood drain from my face. I do my best to smile, but all I manage is a weird combination of the frown I had until now and an expression of embarrassment. Да, и я, короче, слишком долго играю, так что музыка уже закончилась. Обычно они залупливают, на репит ставят, покуда не перещелкнешь, но... Thankfully, if Vincent notices, he doesn't mention it. По крайней мере, графика ничего, в отличие от некоторых игр, и более-менее разнообразные вариации выражений, они... Одна статичная картинка, и я так и говорю, и улыбаюсь, и смеюсь. Правда заметно, я могу еще делать вот так вот, или вот так вот. Правда видно, очень хорошо видно. I think should be getting here tonight. I imagine you will want to report to the office in the meantime. After that, I can go home so you can check the place out. Sounds good? Мы будем с ним жить вместе. Oh, okay. Yeah, sounds good. On the hindsight, I should have expected something like this to happen. I was so glad to have a place to stay. I didn't even stop to consider what kind of person would agree to let a stranger live with them so easily. Vincent puts an arm around my shoulder and, before I can react, pulls me closer to him with one swift move. Oh. Well then, let's go. We're not far. We're staying more or less in the same position the whole way to the office. At one point I try to slip away, but the only thing I manage is to lose my footing and get him to hold me even tighter. Вообще, наверное, я должна была бы его озвучить немного более таким голосом. Смотрим. The Department of Integration office here in St. George is very different from what I'm used to. The building is mostly brick and steel, dating back from the time when it was also used as a shelter and a community kitchen. Meanwhile, the office at the capital was located in a huge modern skyscraper. As we approach, a man standing by the door catches my attention. He's covered in bandages from head to toe and he's wearing very flashy clothing. Against the dull color of the building, he sticks out like a sore thumb. He also seems pretty upset about something. His arms are crossed and he keeps tapping his feet impatiently against the floor. Maybe he's waiting for the office to open. When Vincent notices him, he stops suddenly. I swear, this guy doesn't have a life. Who is he? That's Sebastian, the supervisor. Sebastian. Yo ho, Sebastian, let's go far away. Somewhere where the captain won't be mad. He's our boss? And he comes to work dressed like that? Wait for me here, won't you? Vincent doesn't give me the opportunity to say anything else. In fact, he's not even looking at me anymore as he finally takes his arm off my shoulder and hurries to meet Sebastian. At first I stay put like Vincent told me to, but as their conversation gets louder and angrier, I no longer feel comfortable just looking from afar. By the time I decide to get closer, they're practically yelling at each other. They're both so engrossed in their argument that they barely notice me when I approach. What did I tell you about bringing more of your friends here? He's not... Whatever. I'm sure he can introduce himself. You're late enough as it is. But... You still here? Go! Fine, fine. I'm going already. I said no. He gives Vincent a hard shove towards the door, or at least he tries to. There is a considerable difference in strength between them, and as a result, Vincent barely budges. Laughing, Vincent turns around and winks at me before opening the door and heading inside. Letting out a disgruntled groan, Sebastian turns to face me. Disgruntled and Okay, now, where were we? Right, introductions. Whatever amount of patience he may have had, it's clear that he already spent it all on Vincent. I can't really blame him. I haven't even spent an hour with Vincent and I'm beginning to get a little bit exasperated myself. I let out the transfer notice from my pocket and handed it to him. My name is Christopher Wells. I just got transferred from the capital. I was told you'd already been informed. He eyes the paper carefully, almost with suspicion, then nonchalantly folds it in half. I see, I'm Sebastian Griffin. Sebastian и Гриффин. Прям как Гриффит, что напоминает мне аниме Берсерк. Oh yeah. Okay, now I get it. The sassy look. Come on in. This is no place to talk about it. Once inside, Sebastian begins to walk so fast that I can barely keep up. After almost losing him twice, I can't help but get the impression that he's trying to leave me behind on purpose. Luckily for me, the interior of the building isn't actually that big and we arrive to his office in a matter of minutes. Leaving the folded paper on top of the desk, Sebastian takes a seat. I notice that there's only one chair, but since he doesn't mention it, neither do I. Wells, right? Yes, Human Resources informed me about your quest. However, I was very clear when I explained to them that we can't receive anyone at the time. That's not possible. The clearly letter says. Наверное, the letter clearly says. Whatever. Our budget is very limited and it's allotted months in advance. Unless you come with a very big check or are willing to work for free, that's just how it is. The earliest we could have you would be next year. After all the trouble I went through to get transferred, I can't go back just like that, just like this. Not now. It's one thing if it turns out that I'm not cut out for Saint George after all, but if I don't even get to try, I won't ever be able to live it down. I understand, but insist politely or point out that it's not his choice. Insist politely. Let's be polite. It's a good sign that he agreed to speak with me rather than just turn me away at the door, so maybe there's still a way to solve this without getting anyone else involved. It's obvious that there has been some kind of mistake. I will talk to Human Resources and clear this up myself if it's necessary. I promised Mr. Griffin I wouldn't be here if I wasn't committed to making this work. For a moment, Sebastian says nothing. He looks pensive, I guess. But the fact that I can see his expression just makes me more nervous. Finally, he lets out a sigh. Oh, we were told to help update the town's registry a while ago, but I can't spare the people to do so. How about this? If you can help me get everything ready for census without screwing up, I will see about making room for you. You'd have until the first payment is due, about 2 weeks. I don't need time to think about it. I nod enthusiastically. Yes, of course. I will do it, thank you. He waves a hand in a dismissive gesture. Just make sure I don't regret it. Kid, you'll begin with that tomorrow. For now, go to the warehouse and pick whatever you need to get settled from there. After that, you can come help with this week's paperwork. Unless you have a problem with that? No, I will be right back. Мы сменили бумажную работу на бумажную работу, да? Turns out that the warehouse is right behind the office, so it doesn't take me long to find it. However, once I'm there, it's a completely different story. As I step inside, the first thing I notice is that the interior is so dark that I can barely see what's in front of me. So dark? Такой темный где? Тут же горят фонари, все освещение горит. Okay. There's a window on the door big enough to let some light through, but at this hour it's pretty much useless. Maybe the office used to have a daytime shift when they first opened, and then moved to a night one to better accommodate monsters. Or maybe the warehouse used to be something else and it was repurposed. Either way, as I fumble for the light switch, my hand suddenly touched something cold. Robot? When the lights come on, I find myself facing some sort of android. Как там постоянно в фиках про Геноса, что я не робот, я киборг, или как это? I think. He doesn't really look like any monster I've seen before, and with some monsters, you can't really be sure until they tell you. Realizing that our fingers are still touching, I move my hand away. He stares at me with a raised eyebrow for a moment, as if deciding what to do. Он такой, по-моему, немного будет on beachy side, yeah? This area is off limits for visitors. Please, return to the main building. His voice has a mechanic ring to it, like text being read aloud by a voice synthesizer. It's not unpleasant, but it's exactly how I would expect an android to sound like. If you are unable to find the way back by yourself, I can accompany you. Oh, sorry. I'm not a visitor. I'm an employee. I just started today. My name is Christopher Wells. Nice to meet you. Duly noted. You can call me Isaac. How may I help you, Christopher? Mr. Griffin sent me to get some things. Do you know where the office supplies are? He nods. Instead of pointing, he makes an open-handed gesture towards a line of shelves in front of us. Odd. Of course. Please follow me. Every few steps, Isaac turns his head to check if I'm still behind him. However, because he just looks at me without actually saying anything, we soon fall into a very uncomfortable silence. Я чувствую, я буду повторять эту дорожку, потому что как-то слишком без музыки играть. Attempt to make conversation, of course. I clear my throat to get his attention. So, what do you do here at the DOI? I'm in charge of the organization and maintenance of the warehouse and its contents. Really? I've always thought that the people at the warehouse had one of the most interesting jobs, right after field agents. How do you like it? I found that my abilities are well suited for it. I wait for a moment for him to continue speaking, but he doesn't. Okay then. Have you been working here for long? As of today, a month and 3 days. Fortunately, I don't have to think of something else to say as Isaac finds what he was looking for right then. A big cardboard box with a label that reads stationery. After placing the box on the ground, he takes out a pen and a piece of paper from it and hands them to me. Here it is. Please write your name, department and everything you plan to take out. Then sign on the line. Then we have some sort of electronic form. He shakes his head. Paper only. Being told as much by an android feels really bizarre, but I resist the urge to make a comment. Since I technically don't belong to any department yet, I just put down pending, sign, and begin shuffling through the box's contents with my free hand. Let's see. Pen, pencil, stapler, corrector liquid. That would be all. Thanks, Isaac. You're welcome. Feel free to inform me if you require further assistance. Having gotten everything I need, I head back to Sebastian's office. Whatever. The first thing I notice is... Мы еще одного не видели, okay. The first thing I notice... Просто некоторые моменты очень-очень симпатичные кадры, скриншотики, поэтому... I don't know. The first thing I notice is that though there's still only one chair, now there's a metal bench to it to sit on too. It doesn't look comfortable at all, but I suppose it's better than being left standing up. Oh, значит, нам принесли еще что там? Скамеечку металлическую, да? Oh, that's so... Как там? Consider... Продуманно, позаботились она... I take my place at the other side of the desk and we begin to walk. Much to my dismay, the rest of the night turns out to be incredibly dull. Although I have to admit that it's nowhere near as bad as it was back in the capital, where the bulk of my work consisted on checking forms and reports that were more a bureaucratic requirement than an actual necessity. It's still paperwork, and that's still lots of it. On the plus side, Sebastian seems rather pleased by the fact that I'm already familiar with most of the procedures, so he doesn't have to waste any time explaining them to me. Is it? I look up, he's staring at me so intently that I can practically feel him burning holes in my head with his eyes, even with his glasses on. It's pretty intimidating. Sorry, could you repeat that? I ask whether it's true that you will be staying with Vincent. It is. I... Keep the details to yourself. I don't need them. Since you will be living together, I have a favor to ask you. I want you to do everything you can to make sure that Vincent arrives on time from here on. His tone makes it sound more like an order than a request. Either way, it would probably be better for everyone involved if these two had one less reason to argue about. I will do my best. Good. Sebastian stands up and opens one of the drawers, taking a small key out of it. That would be all for today. You can go home. Be here at 7. The first person to arrive is in charge of opening, so I'm giving you a spare key, just in case. He hands it to me, and as I take a closer look and see the DOI symbol engraved on the side, I realize that this is what I'm supposed to use to open. Between this and the fact that they're still using paper forms to track inventory, I realize he wasn't joking when he said that St. George runs on a very limited budget. In the capital, even the least important rooms have long had their locks exchanged for either card or fingerprint readers. Putting away the key in my pocket, так ты просто сбичена о том, что тебе дали ключ, а не карту магнитную, которая открывать. Какое это вообще имеет дело? Как бы, seriously. Putting away the key in my pocket, I excuse myself and go looking for Vincent. After a couple of minutes, I end up in the break room. Значит, здесь мы можем последнего видеть, да? Since Vincent wasn't with Sebastian and me, he wasn't in the warehouse with Isaac, and I didn't see him at the front desk, let's just leave the break room and field work, I suppose, but it's not like I can go look for him out there. There he is. Good. Vincent is sitting at one of the tables speaking with someone on the phone. Whatever they're talking about must be serious. He looks pretty focused on it, and he's even frowning a little. So they like to talk big, but they won't bother. Your papers are in order, I checked. Look, if you really are that worried, just slip them at 20 and they will leave. Well, that definitely sounds like something I shouldn't be listening to. Right as I'm about to leave, Vincent notices me and gestures me to take a seat. I try to indicate that I can wait until he's done, but he pretty much ignores me and just repeats the gesture, this time more insistently. Stop by whenever you have time, and we will talk about this in person, alright? I gotta go. Chris! How did it go? Come on, sit down. I pull back a chair and sit down next to him. Oh, it went fine. I feel a little bad for leaving out the details, but I don't want to discuss it right now. I quickly change the subject. Are you done yet? I'm exhausted. Sorry, love, not even close. I have a lot of work to catch up with, and since Sebastian leaves at 9, I have to stay until then, at the very least. I'll see. Do you need help? What? No, you go ahead and leave. He stands up and walks towards one of the shelves, taking out a small card and scribbling something on the back. Can you believe that Sebastian makes us keep this around with our cell phone numbers and everything? I'd like to see him pick up a call sometimes. He'd probably end up yelling at the poor soul on the other end. He sneezes, shaking his head as he continues to write. Anyway, this is my address. It's the first house on the 13th. No way you can miss it. You'll stay in the guest room, but make yourself at home. Your things should be there by now. Also, be sure to grab something to eat on the way. It's been a while since I've had someone who actually eats stay over. I've got some things in the fridge, but nothing you'd want to try. Trust me on that. I take a look at blood. There's gonna be blood. Кровяк. Я все равно заглянул. Так, ради интереса. I have a look at the cards, just like he said. It has his name and number and a scribble on the back that I assume is meant to be a map. The instructions are simple enough, but I can't help frowning the idea that I have to walk all the way there alone. The entire point of meeting Vincent before coming to work was so that he would show me the way to his house. Suddenly his phone begins to ring. I suppose that's my clue. Q. Q or clue? See you later, Vincent. See you later, love. Мне нравится вот такой вот переход от одной сцены к другой. I hadn't really noticed before because I kept getting distracted by Vincent, but now that I'm alone, I realize that I get a lot of stares. I suppose it's normal, given that I'm one of the few humans here, and I don't mind most of them, but there's been a couple that have made me glad that my shift ends when the sun's already risen and not in the middle of the night. Maybe I'm exaggerating, it's probably just my imagination. I end up taking Vincent's advice and I stop at the store on the way to his house. I'm not surprised to find that most of the things there are meant for monsters, going from the relatively mundane like claw clippers to the more uncommon like flavored blood substitutes. In the end, I settled for some raw beef, figuring that it would be safe enough to eat once it's cooked. Just as I step outside, now carrying a plastic bag with my groceries, I hear someone yell in my direction. Watch out! A huge wolf, almost the size of a bear, appears from the corner before I have the chance to react. Knocks me and all my things down as it runs past. The fall leaves me feeling dizzy and it's almost to tear an opening into the plastic bag. Soon its contents end up scattering all over the floor, now ruined. I'm too tired to even get angry. When I look up, I see another figure approaching. It's moving at a considerable speed, but not nearly as fast as the wolf. It's most like a person running. Красавица и чудовище никому не вспоминается, нет? It's not until the figure gets closer that I'm able to get a clear look and I realize that it's a werewolf and one who bears a striking resemblance to the wolf. At that, he stops right in front of me, a worried expression on his face. Are you alright? Did she hurt you? Do you need to go to the hospital? He's talking so fast and he's breathing so heavily between words that I have trouble understanding him. I shake my head and he sighs, visibly relieved. Good, I'm so sorry about that. Here, let me help you. He offers me a hand and right as I take it, helps me get up with a swift movement that leaves my arm hurting more than the fall itself did. The guy really doesn't know his own strength. Ouch. That was my sister. She has so much energy for her own good. I swear. Sometimes she's a little beast. He laughs, stopping as soon as he realizes that I'm not laughing with him. He clears his throat and begins to rub the back of his neck, looking embarrassed all of a sudden. And then... Мне это все напоминает фильм «Фит», или как на русский переводили «Прорыв», когда вдруг самый парень, который забитая серая мышь, становился супер прям популярный. Suddenly I'm Mr. Sex. И тут тоже наш Кристофер, да? Или все того, что это обычный человек. Wow, so hot. Не знаю, там, forbidden relationships, whatever. Christopher, I'm kind of in a hurry, so as I'm about to kneel down to pick up my things, Ben reaches out to put a hand on my shoulder to stop me. Типаж Уилсона и Макото, да, немножко есть такое. With my arm still aching from when he held me up, I instinctively take a step back, and he uses the opportunity to kneel down himself instead. No, let me. Either way, not only the hole in the back makes it pointless to try to put anything back into it, but as soon as he lifts one of the beef packages, it begins to leak. We are both far enough to avoid getting stained by the liquid when it splashes, but barely. It looks disgusting. Damn, that's ruined. It's fine, really. I do my best to make it sound like it's not a big deal, so I can go ahead and leave, but it doesn't seem like it's working. Are you sure? I open my mouth to speak, but this time he doesn't even wait for me to answer before continuing. I've got it. Come in with my sisters and me. That way I can make it up to you properly. Oh, it's not necessary. Что у нас такое выражение лица было? This is beginning to feel like the conversation I had with Vincent all over again, except there's less touching. Please, I insist. It's the least I can do. Don't you have to go looking for your sister? He shakes his head. No. The thing with pups is that if you don't catch them right away, they just keep running for as long as you keep chasing them. It's like a game for them. She's bound to notice that I stopped any time now, and as soon as she does, she will get bored and go home. I live right around the corner, so it won't take too much of your time. 20 minutes at most. What do you say? О, и тогда-то мы будем готовить, да? Потому что это просто очаровательный скриншот был. We're headed in the same direction then. Okay, accept. Тем более, а что мы кушать будем? St. George streets aren't that big, so even if we aren't next door neighbors, chances are that we still live pretty close to each other. That means that we are going to end up walking in the same direction, regardless of whether I accept or not. And he's probably going to keep trying to convince me all the way there. And then it's going to be awkward next time we see each other. Fine. I think I can spare 20 minutes. Great. You will love it. I promise. Ну, на сегодня это было все, ребят. Пока. И еще увидимся. Надеюсь, скоро. Помните, что, как всегда, вы можете сейчас кликнуть на мое изображение и подписаться на данный канал, а также посмотреть парочку моих предыдущих видео. Пока!